Are you here for MJ's ongoing beef with Isaiah?
Oh, it is so good. I am old enough to remember Isaiah Thomas and Magic Johnson kissing to start NBA games. And this is the opposite of that, where 40 years later, you're looking at something and they still hold on to those pettinesses and the bitternesses and the resentments all these years later. I've talked to Pat Riley about this, guys. He has trouble talking to Michael Jordan and Larry Bird because of the scars they left, having any kind of conversation with them, because at that time in basketball, it was played totally different. I understand why it is Michael Jordan would hate everything about those Pistons. There are very few athletes who could have endured that level of violence, and that level of Bill Laimbeer only gets famous as someone who's trying to injure the best athlete that's out there. We don't play basketball that way anymore.
Let me throw something out here, guys. This may sound crazy. What if Michael Jordan and Isiah Thomas don't dislike each other, right? And I say this because I actually wound up on the phone with Isaiah a couple weeks ago, and he asked something. He said to me, he goes, "You ever heard me say anything bad about Michael?" I said, "No." He said, "You ever heard Michael say anything bad about me?" And I stopped and thought about it. I was like, no, I can't even point to it. And even in that documentary, you can't point to it. You could point to Mike dismissing the idea that Isaiah thought it was okay to walk off the floor and all of that. But a lot of the reason that we think that there is beef in this place is that putting the beef on Mike is an excuse for America to continue its irrational hatred of Isaiah Thomas, which stems entirely from one moment. If Larry Bird was black, he'd be just another guy in the NBA. And people have been taking that out on Isaiah from the day he said it and look for any other reason to say that that's the case. And they come down on the everybody hates Isaiah. But when you start asking people to really name the folks that do hate him, it gets to be a little bit more difficult.
I should have just called you this morning because I found myself deep in a rabbit hole because I couldn't understand after watching the documentary last night how Jordan could hold such a grudge on such a minor grievance, like such a minor transgression. Like it was nothing. He kind of didn't shake his hand. Like it's not a big deal. It's not enough to warrant him icing him out of the dream team and him still be upset about it decades later. Like it doesn't make sense just to not shake his hand. One of the things I found in my deep dive was apparently John Sally said that Isaiah, being from Chicago, went back home and one of his nephews was wearing a Jordan jersey. And apparently this was before Jordan, this was during Jordan's rookie season, and this turned Isaiah into a true Jordan hater, and that led to Isaiah icing Jordan out of the All-Star game, which upset Jordan in his rookie year, and which Jordan did come into that game kind of arrogant. If you look at the dunk contest from that year, he came in there as a rookie, dressed in only Jordan apparel with gold chains. Like, that's going to piss some people off. And they were trying to put him in his place. Apparently, Isaiah was the ringleader on that. And then that leads to all the other beef that they had. And I don't understand how you get to 50 years later, but somehow he was able to, Dan, you said that he hated everything about those teams. He didn't hate Dennis Rodman. Like, he was able to forgive him. He didn't shake his hand either. So none of this makes sense unless what Bomani just said is true, that maybe they didn't really hate each other.
No, this is like the relationship between Mike and Isaiah is a complex one, and the centerpiece of it has to be Chicago, right? Isaiah Thomas is Chicago's favored basketball son. He is the best basketball player to come from that city. He means something in that place. And then Mike comes in. There are all kinds of things that come together with that part of it, right? But Isaiah has infuriated a lot of people at a lot of stops. But it all goes back to that one thing. And guess what? I'm not even sure Larry Bird hates Isaiah Thomas in the way that we say. They sat and did a press conference days after that particular event happened. I recall, Larry Bird ultimately fired him, but wasn't Isaiah Thomas the coach of the Pacers when Larry Bird is the executive that's over them? Maybe, just maybe, the people that don't like Isaiah Thomas find it easy to say that everybody else doesn't like Isaiah Thomas to explain their distaste for Isaiah Thomas because they don't want to say why they really don't like him.
And Isaiah could hate Larry even more because even though the story is Jordan kept Isaiah off of the dream team, like the one person on the dream team that at that point could not contribute anyway was kind of Larry Bird. So if you're going to take somebody off the dream team and put somebody else on, it might not have been Stockton, as everyone said. It might have been Larry Bird. So Isaiah could look at Bird and say, you took my spot on the dream team and everyone hates me because I said one thing that was obviously factually inaccurate.
Yeah, how much different is the world if Bird doesn't steal that pass, right? The Bird steals the ball play. If that doesn't happen, we don't get that question about Larry Bird just being another black dude. The Pistons go to the finals 3 straight years. Like, everything is different in the way that we talk about Isaiah Thomas, and he doesn't throw the pass away.
Speaking of that, though, the margin thin spaces, Craig Elo hit a pretty big shot. He hit a pretty big shot, and that is not what anyone remembers.
Yo, Craig Elo hit the layup to, like, go up in the game on the backdoor cut, and then, Doug Collins called that play for Dave Corzine until Mike told him to give him the ball. They give Mike the ball. Literally no one could stop Mike from making that shot. But Ron Harper was talking about what he said it was that he didn't get to defend Mike on that play. Why? Did you want to be in the highlight? Right? Did you want to be the Craig Elo of this? Because that's all you would have been. Nobody was stopping Mike from getting that shot off.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.